This might be one of the weirder concepts for an episode I've ever come up with, but just hear me out. I've been reading The Lord of the Rings, and I want to talk about how the life of a hobbit, and also a little bit how Tom Bombadil, who's not a hobbit, but, is a weird whole other thing. I want to talk about how those things apply to games and game development. And particularly, I want to talk about the inspiration that I'm drawing from The Lord of the Rings in terms of just enjoying and exploring creating things. This is Game, Develop, Repeat. As always, welcome back. I'm your host, Chris. Thank you for joining me. What could a hobbit possibly have to do with playing and developing video games, I hear you ask? They didn't even have computers back then. No, but they did have a good time, right? I said back then as though hobbits are a real thing that has existed. Hey, look, let me enjoy the fantasy for a moment. Let me suspend my disbelief for just a moment, right? I've been really enjoying Lord of the Rings right now. Let me believe it's real. No, the deal with hobbits, right? First, let me discuss what I find so appealing about them and their lifestyle. It's not just the food, though that is part of it. It's the way in which there's just a little bit of drama over some very low stakes things, but they're all coming together and having a good time regardless. All of their little conflicts are petty, and they realize that they're petty. They're having a peaceful life, even though they've got a little bit of nonsense going on. They have the bigger mysteries of the world, and a lot of the times they go, I don't really care for that. But historically, sometimes they do care for it. Some of them go out and have their little adventures, and everybody else will shun them a little, but they're still accepted in the community, and they're cool, and they're just an interesting part of the oddness going on. The whole deal that I find so intriguing with them is how chill they are while still having a bit of drama. It is such a nice perspective, and maybe it's just the presentation of it. Maybe it's the way that it's written. Maybe it's the way that it's filmed. But the whole mood around the Shire and hobbits is everything is fine, even when there's some stuff going on. Everything is fine. Everything will be fine. Just keep going, and we'll get it sorted. And then when bad stuff does happen, and it is truly bad, some of them step up, and they take care of it, and they save the world, and then they go back and they go, okay, back to chilling, back to what's important. We've gone on our adventure. We've saved the world. We've done what we need to do. Now, can we just get back to what actually matters? And that, weirdly, is what I feel like creating stuff should be like. Not an exact shot for shot, line by line explanation of creating things, but I think it should just be we're doing what matters, we're doing what matters, we're doing what matters. And every once in a while, we run into something that really is a real ordeal and sucks and is less comfortable and it requires a certain degree of bravery or requires a certain degree of confronting a big challenge. And then we deal with that and we go back to it and we go, okay, back to enjoying this, back to just having a good time. I think it's a nice life philosophy. I think it's a good way to play games. I think it's a good way to make games. It's a little hard to define exactly what that is and how that feels for you, but the attitude of it is a beautiful thing. And to digress a little bit and just talk about the gaming side of this, people keep taking games so seriously at times. Not all the time, of course, but I run into things online where people are saying this game shouldn't be this way. This game is bad because this game is destroying society. This game is the corruption of the industry, and so on. There are times when people lose it over a game's existence. There are times when people lose it over the fact that a game that they want to exist doesn't exist, and everybody should be making games exactly the way that they want them to be, because who could possibly have a more important perspective than that particular person, right? I'm not talking about any particular person. There's a vibe out there of this game doesn't serve me, so it shouldn't exist. Or this game is slop, or this game is whatever. And it just feels as though we're taking it a little too seriously, and not in the fun drama way. Not in the way where you're just kind of poking fun at something and being like, those Bagginses, they're kind of weird. They keep going out on adventures, and I don't know about that. You might want to keep your distance. No, instead it's like we have to exile them. And I know this is an odd metaphor to use for this, but if anybody listening to this has that feeling sometimes, I know I've had this before, but if you consistently have that feeling of like, man, this game shouldn't exist and is terrible and whatever. I don't know, it's a game. You know what I mean? It's a game. It's fine. It exists. You know, maybe if somebody's like, should I try this game? You go, I don't know about that, man. It's kind of a weird one. It's kind of got some stuff that I don't agree with. It's kind of doing some microtransaction. In my case, it's kind of doing some microtransaction stuff. I'm not really big on that. Right? But it doesn't mean that you need to rally a campaign behind erasing the existence of the game, or getting everybody who has ever thought about playing it to fully reject it, and so on and so on. The bigger point I'm getting at is just, can't games just be games, man? Can't we have a little bit of drama about it? I'm so cool with that. I love that. But like, can we just let it be the level of dramatic that it deserves and not anything more? The internet, people get bored, they spiral into it, and they go crazy with it. Let's just be hobbits about it. Be a little sassy. Be a little troublesome. Gossip a little bit. And then that's that. If somebody starts trying to start a bunch of pitchforks and torches and stuff about it, just be like, whoa, that's not what we're doing. They're fine. They can be here. We were just expressing some issues with it. Anyway, forgive me for that tangent. But also, while we're at it, maybe you just need a snack. Maybe that's what the hobbits are doing right. Anytime they're feeling a little grumpy, they're like, oh, well, it's snack time. We got to have afternoon tea. We got to have 11sies. We got second breakfast. Well, come on. There's so many meals to be had to keep you content. Maybe that's what they're doing right. And that's the perfect segue into talking about development. I think sometimes when I'm creating something, I do so with the greed of a dwarf from Lord of the Rings. I keep digging the mines deeper and deeper until I run into an idea that I cannot handle. I unleash a Balrog. I unleash something so powerful and terrifying that it overtakes me and destroys everything that I've gone digging through, right? This idea of scope creep can connect pretty strongly to digging a mine too deeply and greedily. And how often have we felt that kind of greed as a game developer? This feeling of, I can go further, I can do more, I can make it more exciting. There's so many ideas here. Let's keep going. But we don't even use those ideas to go create something sometimes, right? Dwarves, there's so many people involved. They're making metal. They're making mithril vests out of it, and what have, or chainmail, excuse me, out of it. They're making whatever it is that they're making. We can go just idea digging all day. We don't have a whole team to go smith everything for us necessarily. But this greed of idea expansion and this feeling of let's be honest, playing God a little bit when you're creating a game, there's a element of that can pop up where you were like, I can create anything, and my God, there's too many options. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna create? Let's explore, and you can get a little trapped in the possibilities. I like the Hobbit life. I like the way that they're doing what they can with what they've got. They're tilling the soil. They're growing crops. They're probably foraging for food and hunting a little bit and trading and what have you. Probably not as much of the trading since they're so locked into the Shire. And you know what? I haven't done a deep enough dive to say exactly how they're getting all the food that they're getting, but they're clearly getting by and having a ton of food. You know, they're making cheeses. They're growing plants. They're gardening. They got drinks. They're famous for their tobacco. Let's say it might be wacky tobacco. It's not completely clear to me yet, but they have what they need and they get what they want, and they don't have to dig greedily for it. Right? They're working with what they've got. And what I'm getting at is maybe we can use these metaphors. Maybe we can have a moment where we go, wait, hold on. Am I digging too greedily and deeply? Or am I working with what I've got? Maybe you are. Maybe you're not vibing with the Hobbit life idea. But maybe you can just go, I don't need to go digging any deeper. I've got plenty. Let's go forge some stuff out of this. Maybe if I dig too much deeper, I'm going to run into a problem. Meaning, maybe if I scope creep a little too much, hey, hold on. Maybe I need to hold back on this. Maybe if I find this idea, that's going to be a problem in and of itself because I'm going to get so excited about it that I'm going to lose my interest in what I'm working on right now. Not to dissuade you from finding cool ideas, but at least have a place to write them down or have a plan for if you run into something really, really cool. And I think that the slow and steady, consistent path, as I've talked about before, might be the greatest path for growth as a developer and the most enjoyable path. That's what I'm really getting at. Is like, this is something I've been fighting with a lot lately. Consistently doing the thing when I've got a busy life and there's a lot going on, and I just want to develop and enjoy it and still want to get stuff done, but like, what's the priority? Is the priority getting it done? Is the priority enjoying it? Blah, blah, blah. And I find the image of a hobbit gardening very inspirational. I find the image of them having a good time, gardening a little bit, taking a break, eating some cheese, chilling out, drinking something, smoking their pipe weed. I'm not a smoker, by the way. I'm pretty terrifically against it, but that's neither here nor there. That comes from my music background, and it damages your lungs. It's a whole thing. They're taking a nice break. They're taking care of themselves, and then they're getting back to it. And then even when they're trying to save the world, I'm only 100-something pages deep in Lord of the Rings right now. I just got through some Tom Bombadil. Even then, they're on their journey, and they're pausing when they need to. And like when they need to go quicker, they're not really panicked about it. Even when they're terrified of some stuff, they're not really like panicked. They're going, they're all very afraid of this, but after a certain point, it became time to sing songs. After a certain point, it became time to take a break and eat some food. They're like, yeah, we've been going for a long time, and it's important, but we got to rest. We got to break. And whatever your project is, it's not so important that you can't pause and take care of yourself. And is this just an excuse for me to have snacks? I think this might just be an excuse for me to have snacks while I'm working on my game development. But to genuinely step away, to not just like sit there and grind and rush, but to go, okay, hold on. I know this is important to me, but if it's important to me, I need to make sure that I'm ready to go. So now's the time. Take a step away, come back to it. And I don't know. I like that. There's a beauty in it. And there's also a beauty in just the depiction of the connection with nature throughout Lord of the Rings. At least early on. I imagine it's going to continue throughout the books. I've just gotten through the part with Tom Bombadil, and that really struck me. There's an element of this character that is, he has almost a godlike power. He can basically teleport places. Like he can just like appear, and he just kind of naturally appears, right? He just kind of like flows with nature and has very fortunate coincidences of like, oh, I happen to be in the right place at the right time. But it feels like it's part of his powers to just, oh, he's there. Because of course he's there. He's supposed to be there. And it feels as though this character is so in tune with not just the natural world, but his own nature, that he can just exist in a state of flow with everything around him. And I find that understanding yourself is not an easy task, and it is something that takes a lot of time and effort and exploration in kind of a calm way. And I think that Tom Bombadil makes me think, the better you know yourself, the more you can navigate your environment, the more things will kind of feel like an accident. Right? It'll feel like, oh yeah, no, that just happened. I didn't really plan that. It just occurred. Have you ever had that happen in a creative moment, right? You're drawing something, you're writing something, you're working on some code, and you go, oh, wait, this is set up for me to succeed in a way that I didn't even expect, and I'll just plug this in here, and then now everything works in a different, new way. Oh, I was drawing this face, and I have this line here, and I can use that for this, and oh, now we've got a very well-placed little deformity near the cheek, or like a little frown line or something. The point that I'm getting at is happy little accidents, except it's Lord of the Rings edition. We can roll with the punches, and everything can feel like a obvious and natural result of just doing the thing, of just existing, of just exploring nature and being a part of it. In Tom Bombadil's case, in our case, being a part of whatever it is that we're creating. My question for this week is, are there any fictional characters or worlds or pieces of lore or myths that really inspire you in terms of your creative process? That's all that I've got in terms of the question. I mean, I think I answered that throughout this episode, so I won't answer it right here. I'm interested to see if y'all have any thoughts. And that's it for tonight. That's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for joining me, as always. And until next time, get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.